We'll call to order the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, February 20th, 2025. Present at the front table to my far left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member.
Evening.
Ed McGargy, a voting member. My left, Ernie Angelos, our solicitor.
Good evening.
Bill Rhodes, a voting member.
Good evening.
Jesse Poyton, a voting member.
Good evening.
Jonathan Mount, Haverford Township Zoning Officer.
Good evening.
Bill, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please rise if you can and repeat after me. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, clear.
Yeah.
So we have one continued and 6 new cases tonight. Do I need to close the record on that? Because we did the on the record last time. No, we closed the record.
Yeah, you close it.
Of the new cases, one of them is going to be a continuance. Should I reshuffle again? All right. So with respect to case Z25-04, 731 Old Buck Lane LLC, owner of 731 Old Buck Lane and 855 Martin Avenue, we received a letter requesting a continuance unto our April 17th hearing for that case. So unless there's an objection from one of the board members, that case is continued to April 17th.
And just for the record, Mr. Chairman, we did receive a formal written request from counsel for the applicant, and they have waived the applicable time periods under the MPC and the Township Code up into April 17th.
Okay, thank you. One decision, and we'll do that real quick now. With respect to case Z24-38, Sean and Casey Power, owners of 17 Ellis Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2203-0096600, who seek a variance from the provisions of section 182-206C6A to allow a porch roof to be constructed within 1 feet 2 inches of the property line, where the required side yard setback is 8 feet. The roof encroaches 6 feet 10 inches into the required setback. Property is zoned R4 and located in the 3rd Ward. Jess, would you please take that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with regards to case Z24-38, I would vote to deny the application.
Bill?
I agree.
Ed?
I concur.
Jessica?
Agree.
And so do I. That application is denied 5-0. All right, we're going to go out of order on these cases tonight. So which ones are related to this? So 7. So 1, 2, 3. Right? Well, they can withdraw it on the record. All right, so our first new case tonight is going to be case Z2503, owners of 7 Coopertown Road, Haverford, PA, DC folio number 2204-0014000, who seek a variance from section 182-720 to disturb steep slopes where a previously built swimming pool had created the steep slope, and a variance from section 182-727 to allow the construction of a fence in the front yard. Property is zoned R1 and located in the 3rd Ward. We know who you are. How you doing? Good. How you doing?
Hi.
Hey, Jamie. How are you?
Good.
Go ahead. Enter your appearance, Jamie.
Okay, Jamie Junn here on behalf of the applicants. We have 2 applications before the board tonight. I missed a little bit at the beginning. I don't know if it was discussed, but there were actually 3 applications. One involved 10 Coopertown Road. We have requested that that application be withdrawn. I think the neighbor of that property may have had some questions about the proposed fencing, and the Kelseys are very appreciative of that neighbor, didn't want to raise any concerns, so we decided to withdraw that application.
Okay. So Z2509, which I didn't formally call, is withdrawn. So that's off the agenda. Jamie, are you going to consolidate?
Yes, I'm asking that the hearing be consolidated just to make it efficient, and some of the testimony will overlap. I'm going to just hand out my exhibit packages first.
So, Jamie, just let me read the description for case 08 into the record before we consolidate them. So the other application that's been requested to be consolidated with the case I just read the description of, is Z2508, owners of 9 Coopertown Road, Haverford, PA, DC folio number 220400140001, who seek a variance from section 182727 to allow the construction of a fence in the front yard. Property is zoned R1 and located in the 3rd Ward. So that case will be consolidated with Z2503. Right, go ahead, Jay.
Okay, so as you've stated, the two properties at issue today is 7 Coopertown Road and 9 Coopertown Road. We are seeking a variance to maintain and reconfigure existing fencing and to construct new fencing along the frontage on both lots in order to provide a safer entry into the properties, as well as provide security for the residents. We're seeking a variance to disturb steep slopes on 7 Coopertown Road. We do have our civil engineer. He's going to be providing testimony with respect to those steep slopes. But they exist on 7 Coopertown Road, or they did. And unfortunately, while we were in the process of filing this application, they were disturbed. So we are retroactively seeking a variance. We do understand that if for whatever reason the request is not granted, we would have to restore the slopes, but upon hearing the testimony, we certainly hope that's not the case. We have 3 witnesses tonight, which is the applicant and our civil engineer, as well as our landscape engineer. I just handed out to the board 5 exhibits. I won't go through them separately. We'll kind of hit them as we go through the testimony.
All right,
Would it be
I
okay
need
if-
to swear you in, Jason.
Wherever
Please raise your right
wherever I
hand.
Put my hand on.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
And, I'm
Go
going
ahead,
to
Jamie.
give the witnesses this mic. I'll just step over there.
Sure. Do I start this, or do you guys
And I
ask
just
questions?
need
I
you-
don't know the process.
No, that's okay. I just need you to state your full name and address for the record.
My name is Jason Kelsey. I live at 9 Coopertown Road, Haverford, Pennsylvania, 19041.
Thanks, Jason. Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. And Jason, you purchased 9 Coopertown Road in 2018, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and you and your wife, Kylie, purchased the adjacent property at 7 Coopertown in 2020, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And we have sort of touched upon the relief we're seeking here tonight, but can you explain to the board what your plans are for the 2 lots and also why we're here today?
Yeah, I didn't know where I was going to move to when I married Kylie, and she obviously started out in Haverford Town, grew up in Ardmore and Lower Merion, and or Narberth. And we wanted to be in this area. We like this area a lot. We moved into 9 Coopertown Road with the idea that eventually we would upsize into a bigger house. And then the lot next door came available. So we thought it'd be awesome to build a home there and make this our permanent address. So 3 architects later and many years now, we are trying to build a home. Yeah. And we would like to, obviously things for my family are quite unique with the security purposes. We'd like to just deter a little bit of the foot traffic coming in and out of the home. So we were trying to put a fence that sufficiently does that while also appeals to the aesthetic of the area and that people would appreciate.
Those are all of my questions for Jason.
Okay, any questions from the board? Jessica?
Nope.
Ed?
No question.
Bill?
Just wanted to confirm that when we were looking at these plans, that for 7 Coopertown, where we have some steep slopes, that
Yes.
the idea is you're going to build a new house, so tear down what's there, and that you wouldn't need the steep slope to stay to support the pool, or you?
We don't envision having a pool there right now. I think there is a spot that we could put a pool in the future, but as of right now, there's no pool.
Okay, thanks.
Jesse?
I have so many questions.
No, feel free, you know,
Maybe on a future podcast episode.
you got me sworn in, which is, you know,
Yeah, really, he's on your own.
But on my only questions, I think, was on 9. You're not showing a driveway anymore, but you're going to have a driveway that's going to connect from 7.
correct, yeah.
So there'll be a gate at 7, What's the plan for where the driveway used to be on 9?
Just grass, and it'll appear the same as the other frontage along.
And if
The road.
you ever ended up selling that property, you would restore the driveway and keep, or I don't know if you're planning to keep the curb cut or if that's being reviewed by other jurisdictions, but,
Yeah, we would restore it if we ever sold. Yeah.
okay, great. Well, yeah, so many other questions, but maybe another time. No, thank you.
Fair enough.
All right, I have no questions. Thanks, Jason.
All right, thanks, guys.
And I just want to clarify for the board that in terms of 7 Coopertown Road, the existing home and the improvements, they've already been demoed. They're in the process of constructing the new homes, so there's been a little lapse of time, from when we've filed the application and we're now here, so there has been some work that's been happening on that site. My next witness is Tim Davis. He is the project civil engineer.
Please raise your right hand. How are you? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board, please.
Timothy Davis, civil engineer.
I believe Mr. Davis has been before this board to provide testimony.
He has.
And he's been admitted as an expert in civil engineer.
Yes.
I have included his CV as Exhibit A4. So we can kind of go through his credentials if you want, but we can skip it depending.
We have his CV, right? It's A4. Unless there's any objection from the board, I'm inclined to just accept Tim as an expert.
Thank you. Tim, are you familiar with the property?
Yes.
And I have handed out to the board Exhibit A1, that is 4 sheets that contain existing and proposed conditions plans. Can you describe to the board what you were asked to do in connection with this project?
Yes. Shot Group was retained to provide surveying and civil engineering services for 7 Coopertown Road and 9 Coopertown Road. We provided the site survey, boundary, and topographic survey for the initial development of the site, as well as the civil engineering, township permitting, and NPDS permitting for the development of the new residence on 7 Coopertown Road.
And can you describe for the board the existing conditions, and you can reference any of your exhibits if needed. Do you have it in front of you?
I don't have it in front of me, but thank you.
Jamie, you want to identify A1 if he's going to refer to it?
Yes, Exhibit A1 is a zoning hearing board display plan. It consists of 4 sheets. And again, it shows the existing and proposed conditions, and Tim will kind of go through those sheets with you.
Okay. Go ahead, Tim.
So as shown on the first sheet of A1, the existing site on 7 Coopertown Road consists of a single-family home, pool, and driveway with a fence fully surrounding the site. The fence, as it currently is configured, follows the right-of-way line with a gate set back about 7 feet back from that right-of-way to a wooden gate that's there now. On 9 Coopertown Road, there's a single-family house with a pool and driveway.
And can you describe for the board the relevant proposed site improvements?
Yes, we are proposing a new residence on 7 Coopertown Road, along with associated driveway improvements for that site, as well as a new driveway entrance and reconfiguring the gate access, moving it more to the center of the site. On 9 Coopertown Road, we are removing the driveway and creating a shared driveway access to that same curb cut on 7 Coopertown.
Can you describe to the board the area that's in question, and then also if you can just describe generally what has happened with the steep slopes since the demolition has begun, and if you can just reference them to the specific sheet of your exhibit that shows that area.
Yep. So we do have them shown on the existing conditions plan on the first sheet A1. They are labeled proposed steep slopes to be removed. They are also shown on sheet 2, the next sheet, that shows both the existing and proposed conditions for that site in the area of the steep slopes. They are demarcated with a brown hatch over them. The steep slopes in question were created as part of the original construction for the, I believe it was a 1970s house that was built on a relatively flat site. The site has an average slope of 3% across the whole lot. In order to get the walkout basement the previous house wanted, they cut down a little bit and then built up the pool, creating a bank to hold up that pool for the walkout condition on the relatively flat site. And with the demolition of the existing house, the new house is proposing to return that to a relatively flat site. We're actually lowering the house by a foot relative to the first floor of the house that used to be there.
So you had actually met with the Director of Community Development as well as the Township Engineer as part of your pre-construction meeting at the site, is that correct?
Correct. I met with both the Director of Community Development and Township Engineer for the pre-construction. At that time, the steep slopes were not to be disturbed as part of the development of the new site. However, that was in a program that we wanted to continue to return the site to its natural condition. We met with the Township Engineer and the Director and informed them of our decision to go forward with that. They agreed that they looked man-made, but we would still need to the relief of a zoning hearing board. And they were supportive at the time. And then right after that meeting, because that was a pre-construction, the house went into demolition. The house was constructed with reinforced concrete, very 1970s. A larger demolition contractor had to be brought in. That demolition contractor was not aware of the exact location of steep slopes. The slopes in total are exactly 4 feet tall, just barely meeting the minimum of the code. The equipment that was out there had tracks that were a little bit bigger than that even. So when they took down the pool, everything was accidentally disturbed as part of that. As soon as we were informed of that accidental disturbance, we immediately informed the township and proceeded with the variance application.
And in your opinion, is the variance requested the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the regulations at issue?
Yes, it is a relatively small area on the site.
And the steep and very steep slope provisions of the zoning code state that it is the intent of that section to conserve and protect slopes from harmful disturbances pursuant to the objectives identified in code section 154A-3, which is the objectives for slope control. Are you familiar with these objectives?
Yes, the objectives include the preservation and protection of natural resources. Again, the steep slopes in question were created during the construction of the swimming pool in the 1970s, not part of the natural hillside that was about 3%, well below the required 25% as part of this. The removal does not result in harmful disturbances and does not create any hazards on the property or the destruction of ecological resources.
Those are all of my questions.
Okay. Well, you're going to say for the fence, right? The fence portion?
The what?
Did we talk about the fence portion of the relief that you're requesting?
It's going to be covered by our landscape architect.
Okay. So questions for Tim? Jessica?
I just want to confirm that in your professional opinion, the change to the steep slope is a more natural restoration of the slope and it's creating a more stable slope in its final form.
Yes, the slope was failing in its current condition. Like, it was not able to support grass growth and it was slumping. It was poorly maintained. The natural slope of the land and the whole surrounding area has an average of 3% slope across it. So it was very clearly man-made as part of that, and we're returning it to that more flat, natural slope.
Thank you. I have no other question.
Ed?
Yes, what is the current ground cover of the existing steep slope?
It is about 1,500 square feet.
No, what is the cover? Is it trees, grass?
It was mostly, I would say, poor grass. It was about half grass, half exposed dirt, because the grass was not able to germinate well on it.
It was not natural woodlot or anything like that?
I'm sorry, Mr. McGuarty, could you speak up, please?
Yep, I'm sorry. It wasn't natural woodlot or any type of natural
No.
features other than eroded?
No.
Okay. Will the grading that you're going to do with the construction on 7 Coopertown create new man-made slopes, steep slopes?
It will create new slopes. Those slopes will be less than the 25%. So they would not be qualified as steep slopes. I believe they're right around that 20% mark. But I don't know that.
Retaining wall on the driveway, and that those areas will not be steep slope?
Immediately around it will, as we return to that retaining wall, I guess there would be a small patch right along there as it.
But
blends
you've
in.
looked at, sorry, I cut you off. But you looked at the issue of these newly created steep slopes that you won't have, you controlling stormwater to the best of your ability so you will not cause erosion on those slopes?
Yes, we are controlling stormwater both at the top and bottom of those slopes so that we do not have any overland flow going down those slopes. And at the bottom, they are being collected again so that going into the storm system. As part of the MPDS process, as you're well aware, we controlled for that entire area. And so the stormwater system's below those slopes at the bottom of those, providing full stormwater control for that area.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Bill?
No questions, thank you.
Jesse?
And on page 2 of A1, it looks like as part of the new construction, there's some steps down and maybe a wall through. Could you just generally describe that part of the new work?
Yes, so that is so those are 1 foot contours. So
Yep.
usually these have 2 foot, so it looks steeper than it is. Those are walking stones. They are a landscape feature meant to denote just where the walking path would be down. There is a garden seating area. So that wall that's in there is actually an extension of the foundation wall. So that's actually the walkout basement condition from the main house. So that's the way to get around that to a private seating area in the back. I think we have it marked as the garden seating area.
Yeah, so I see the note that says garden seating area. Is that in reference to kind of the area at the bottom of the wall or at the bottom of the steps?
Yes.
Okay. No other questions.
I have no questions. Thanks, Tim. Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. My last witness is Matthew Nelson. He is our landscape architect. I have included his CV as Exhibit A5. I also want to just wrap up the other 2 exhibits. Exhibit A2 is a T-sheet rendering of what is being proposed. And then Exhibit A3 are some photos of the existing conditions. And I'll just briefly introduce the photos, though you're a little bit more familiar with what it looks like. But on Exhibit A3, that top photo is actually the existing entrance to 7 and 9 Coopertown Road. I took these photos not too long ago, so you don't see a lot of the plant material that would otherwise be there. The second photo on the bottom left is existing fencing along the frontage of 7 Coopertown Road. That's actually what exists now, almost along the entire frontage of that lot. And we're basically looking to replicate that type of fencing. The final picture on A3 is taken from inside of the site, looking out into the street, and that shows a better view of that brick wall, actually, that's there with the gates. And then if you look on the right-hand corner, you see a brown split rail fence that runs between 7 and 9. So that's existing fencing that's also within a portion of that front yard. I believe Mr. Nelson has also testified before this board, and again, his CV is included, and I would ask that you accept him as a expert in landscape architecture.
If you wouldn't mind just going briefly to qualify him.
Sure.
The chairman indicated that unfortunately didn't.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's
Great
okay.
impression whenever you were here.
That's okay.
Ernie, you weren't supposed to expose me like that.
Why we're doing it, why we didn't do the
You're
other one.
supposed to make it seem formal or something. Jeez.
Let's do it.
Okay, so
Hi,
Matt,
Jacko.
can you then, did you swear him in? I'm like,
No.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes. I
And your
do.
full name and the capacity in which you appear?
Matthew Nelson, a landscape architect.
So Matt, I have to ask, what case were you here for?
What's that?
What case were you here before?
I don't know if I want to answer that
I
question.
know.
And, go ahead, Jamie.
We'll talk later about that. No,
You got it.
Okay, so Matt, your CV has been marked as Exhibit A5. Can you tell them what your position is at Jonathan Alden Landscape Architects? And also, if you can give them a little bit of a summary of your professional and educational background.
Sure. So I'm a landscape architect. I've been practicing for about 13 years. I've been working for about 9 years at Jonathan Alderson Landscape Architects. We're a small firm of about 10. I manage about 6 landscape designers. I work directly with the owner, Jonathan Alderson, on a variety of projects, including this one. I graduated from Temple University in 2012 with a degree in landscape architecture, bachelor's degree.
Is that sufficient for the board? Is there anything else you want to ask him?
All right. Any questions by any board members? All right, and what area narrowly is his area of expertise, just landscape design? Okay.
Skip design, right,
Landscape
Matt?
design is
So
appropriate, yes.
We'll admit, and I won't forget you again.
It's okay. Thank you.
We'll admit Matthew's an expert in landscape design.
And Matt, are you familiar with the properties?
Yes.
And can you describe for the board what you were asked to do in connection with these properties?
Yes, yes. So we've been working with the owners for over a year now, mostly on 7 Coopertown, in conjunction with the new construction of the house. So as the landscape architects, we've designed everything on the site: driveways, hardscape, patios, gardens, meadows, fencing, gates, all of that, in conjunction with Shock Group and the owners.
Tim has sort of described the existing improvements generally. Can you focus a little bit more on the existing improvements that are actually within the front yard?
Yes. So I'd recommend looking at Exhibit A1, Sheet 3. That's probably your best plan here. So this sheet shows 2 different plans: an existing conditions plan and a proposed condition. We'll get to that in a second. It shows both 7 Coopertown and 9 Coopertown Road properties. Along the frontage of 7 Coopertown, there's an existing split rail fence that's painted white. There's also, that runs most of the way along the frontage in the front yard of 7 Coopertown. There's also a brick wall and a security driveway gate existing right now that goes across the existing driveway. And 9 Coopertown, there is an existing split rail fence that runs between the 2 properties, between 7 and 9. And all these existing fences are highlighted in like an orange color on the plan. And there's a portion of that split rail fence that runs between the properties that is in the front yard.
And can you now describe what we are proposing in the front yard?
Yeah, so the first improvement is the relocated driveway, as you can see. So we're removing the curb cut at 7 Coopertown. We're shifting the driveway about 80 feet planned south down the road, more central to 7 Coopertown property. We're also removing the brick wall and the existing gate that are at the existing driveway entrance. Those will go away. So all of the new fencing, and this is on the proposed plan on the right-hand side of sheet 3, all the new fencing is highlighted in blue, to be clear there. So we're maintaining a run of existing fencing planned south up to the blue fence. We're jogging the blue fence back as an offset from the road. It's about 62 feet plus or minus from the street. And then we have a driveway gate that's actually outside of the front yard, a new driveway gate at the new driveway. And then the fence jogs back toward Coopertown and then continues planned north all the way in front of 9 Coopertown. And I'll just mention that the existing fence is about 16 feet off of the road. The proposed fence is in alignment with that as it heads planned north. It's about 16 feet off the road. And then the other improvements are at the new driveway entrance, we have a turnaround, a delivery turnaround. So if a delivery truck comes in, needs to turn around, we have enough space to do that and safely exit. If somebody comes into the property and doesn't actually go fully through the gate, they have an opportunity to turn around and exit there.
So the existing fencing is approximately 3 feet 6 inches tall, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And as we are showing on Exhibit A2, Sheet 1, we're just going to carry that straight forward. It will go back to accommodate this new gate feature that we're proposing. I believe the gate elements will be slightly higher, but that all will be outside of the front yard. So in terms of fencing in the front yard, it will be 3 feet 6 inches approximately, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you tell us why the variance is required and what is the physical, unique physical circumstances of these properties?
Sure, yeah. Both lots contain existing fencing within the front yard. So we're trying to preserve as much of that as possible and also introduce a little bit of safety and security for the owners.
And is the variance necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property?
Yes, it allows some of the existing streetscape to remain in place while, again, increasing safety and security for the owners.
Has the hardship been created by the applicants?
No, these features have been here for quite some time.
Will the variance, if granted, alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, or substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property, or be detrimental to the public welfare?
No, the design intent was to maintain the existing character of the streetscape and of that fence, which is appropriate for this property. It's kind of has a rustic, open feeling, and so that's where we wanted to lean into that.
And is the variance requested the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the regulation in issue?
Yes, absolutely. We're utilizing existing fencing. We're removing some of the existing features from the front yard, the brick wall, the gate. We're maintaining that sort of open, rustic feeling of the existing fence. And also, we're maintaining the exact height and specification of, with any new fencing to match the existing fence.
And you will also be providing additional landscaping, is that correct? To sort
Yes.
of further soften the views of that new
Yes, and-
fencing?
Yes, and there's a lot of existing landscape already there. We are in the process of putting even more landscaping along both properties, and you can see that in Exhibit A2, Sheet 1, and also Sheet 2 in these renderings. Gives you kind of a feeling of what the landscape will look like at the end of this project.
And in your opinion, will the proposed improvements have any adverse impact on public health, safety, or welfare?
No.
Those are all of my questions for Matt.
Okay, Matt, I have one question.
Sure.
What is the distance, just so I'm clear, between the roadway and the entrance gate?
The proposed entrance gate,
Yes.
it's about 62 feet from the road.
And how many cars would you say can queue? in that?
Three, I'd say.
Okay, is the gate automated?
Yeah, it'll be automated.
Right, cool, thanks. Bill?
Yeah, if you don't mind staying right on the gate question, I realize that the gate's being set back, and as depicted in the rendering on A2, it looks to be that this would be some sort of electronic gate, but it really looks to be a post and rail with a diagonal brace.
Yeah, it's very,
It's not a solid
no,
wall.
it's very
And-
rustic feeling gate, yeah.
Okay, and then, and in this same rendering, all of the fencing will be of a white color that's consistent with the existing fence that's closest to Darby Road.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and that will continue right across to 7 and replacing what is now a brown post and rail fence, I think, right? Or it's not white, is it?
No, it's existing is white.
Oh, between 7 and 9?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about between the properties? Yeah, so that portion of fence between the properties will be removed all the way back behind the front yard,
All right.
yeah.
I don't think I have any other questions, so, that's it.
Jesse?
My colleague just asked most of my questions, but just so that the record is totally clear, the gate is not within the front yard setback, and therefore you're not even asking, you don't even need relief for the gate.
That's correct.
You're just talking about the fence. Okay, no other questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Jessica, anything?
I just want to confirm that you are not putting any screening or barrier between the split rails. It'll be open.
It'll be open, yeah, that's correct, yeah.
And then it looks like you're setting a large portion of the fence back, actually into the front yard setback where the gate is. Would you say that that is fairly equivalent to the width of 9 Coopertown?
The portion that we're setting back, I'd say it's close, yeah.
So the total that is non-conforming is not really changing in the front yard?
And if I just may answer, we did take a look at that, and I believe the linear feet of fencing that's in the front yard, if you were to straighten it out, is almost equal to
Okay.
what is there now. It may be slightly less.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Ed?
Yeah, I got a question, and it's related to a photograph that's in here, Jamie. I don't know, you didn't enter it as an exhibit, I don't think.
E3? What is that from?
Is in our packet.
It is in 7 Coopertown Road. It's a copy of the notice of zoning by.
I think Jonathan took that picture for us.
Okay.
Would you tell me?
It's in our packet here, that the notice was posted. One of the things you were saying, a brick stoneway. It looks like it's a stone veneer. Are the existing gate openings or whatever was there, are they historic in nature, or can you estimate how old they are?
I don't know exactly how old they are. I don't think they're historic in nature. They're kind of falling apart, a little bit dilapidated. So they, yeah,
Okay.
the wall is a brick and it's painted, and the gate itself is kind of falling apart.
And have you talked to your client about the gate itself is going to have any other security issues, like cameras or anything? I mean, you're,
I don't know the answer to that question.
okay, I'd like to get the answer, because one of the reasons that the hardship that you have is security. I understand that, but I just want to know if the gate itself is going to have security features as well. I also am looking at that photograph, and you might not know the answer to this either. There is a weird-looking fence with fabric on it, and I'm trying to figure out why that was put there.
That's I think that's a screening fence for construction,
Construction is occurring right now, and must be part of the construction.
temporary fence.
Okay, but it's not a security issue or anything that you know?
They're not in that property right now, so it's pretty much open. There's no functioning gate right now either. I am being told that the gate will have some sort of camera on it. But again, all of this gate features is sort of outside of the front yard. I think another point that hasn't really been touched upon is
You're
that.
speaking to the mic, James.
Sure. I think another point that hasn't really been touched upon yet is, this is not your typical estate fencing, 6-foot-high security fencing. You know, we are really trying to work with what's there and blend into the community, and I think that was important to the Kelseys. But because this is a shorter fence, we do need that greater distance a little bit from the actual improvements in the home and this fencing, just to kind of give an earlier security break closer to the street, as opposed to, I think, if we were to have the typical high estate fencing. So that's all part of what went into the design and what is needed, in this location.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. No other questions? Do you have anything else, James?
I'm just going to do a quick closing. So we are seeking a dimensional variance, which obviously is a lesser standard of proof. We do believe that under all of the circumstances, what we're asking for does qualify as de minimis. There are existing improvements currently within the front yard. Courts have found that in such cases, it's important for the board to consider whether rigid compliance is necessary. And I think through the testimony of our witnesses, we have shown that rigid compliance is not necessary. We actually think that there are a lot of benefits that come from this, again, trying to keep the existing streetscape to blend in. We are making the pull-out area a little bit safer. Right now, that gate is very close to the street where cars will be hanging out into the street. So, we're providing also the safety for the residents. So I think under all of the circumstances taken into that consideration, we really do believe that it's de minimis, and, we hope the board grants the request.
All right, and you want to admit your exhibits, right, Jamie?
Yes, I do.
A1 through A5?
Yes.
They're admitted. And Jamie, how long do you think the project would take?
What do you mean in terms of complete build?
Yeah.
2 more years? 2 more years.
Years? Because in the event it's approved, we generally put some kind of a time constraint on it to complete the project.
I would
So-
hope, though, that the fencing would not take 2 years.
No, we could do the fencing early.
Yeah, so I think, maybe even a year probably would be sufficient within the year, and we'll make sure we meet that timeline.
I guess the question should be, if we were to do it, to grant the variance, and would 2 years be better? Because you might not want to do some of the fence until you get the heavy contractor trucks out of the way and all that?
I mean, I think flexibility would always be great, and we'll work with whatever timeline the board provides.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify? Anyone that received, certified, please come forward. Well, ladies first, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Hi, my name is Wendy de la Rosa. This is
But you're going to have to help me spell that. I'm sorry.
de la Rosa, DE space LA space ROSA.
And what was your first name?
Wendy, WENDY.
Okay, Wendy, and what's your address?
I'm the owner of 5 Coopertown.
Owner? So with that distinction, I have to ask, do you live there?
I do live there.
Okay, so that's your residence. And what would you like to tell us tonight?
So first, thank you for your time. As the resident of 5 Coopertown, I think we've enjoyed a nice neighborly relationship. And we definitely respect our neighbors. We respect their need for privacy and security. And I think through the demolition, the police trials, and the construction, we have been very accommodating. One of the questions that we have is regarding the slope and how the water runoff, because the entire area of that street of Coopertown Road, when it rains really hard, is susceptible to flooding. And so during this 2-year construction period, like, what are going to be the mitigations for runoff, especially because that slope has been there for 50 years. Our house was built after the 50 years. And so we want to fully understand how it's going to impact potential flooding and water runoff into 5 Coopertown, and also of my elderly neighbor in 3 Coopertown.
Okay. And do you want to address the board as well?
I can. I don't have anything to add.
If you want to. You don't have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's my lovely husband. He's here for moral support. This is very nerve-wracking, okay? As you guys can understand, we're not public speakers. But really, that whole area does have issues with water runoff. And so, especially if there's not going to be any mitigation during the construction period, we want to understand so that there's no flooding in the backyard for our kid.
That typically, when we approve, if we approve any case, there's always some condition that requires the applicant to control water runoff so it doesn't adversely impact their neighbors. So, but we're going to call Matthew back up and ask him how he's going to mitigate the water so you can hear his answer. But that would be a condition of any approval anyway.
I will just add that since the slope has been destroyed, we've seen some changes in our backyard after some rains. Thank you very much. And
Okay.
again, we strive to be very good neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, lovely husband. All right, anybody else who received certified mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? Matthew? Can you come back? Oh,
I
Tim.
think it's more Tim's
Come on
purview.
So you heard their concern,
Yes.
and, I mean, they don't understand the nuance of the slight steep slope disturbance and all of that. They only understand how they perceive it impacts them.
Of course.
So what can you tell us and tell them through
Yes.
us,
Yep.
through us,
Yes.
you're going to do to mitigate the water run?
Yeah, so the slopes that we're referring to are internal to the site. So there are slopes immediately where the property line is probably located based on those slopes. Those slopes that immediately adjoin are not being disturbed as part of this. They're outside the limit of disturbance. So the slope that was disturbed was 4 feet tall in total, so a little bit less than this podium. So it was not a significant slope, and again, it was only about 35 or 40 linear feet long. So it was a very small slope that was in there. To the stormwater, during construction, there is increased runoff. We are stripping away soil during that time. We do have sediment controls that are part of our PAG02 general MPDS permit that is approved with the Delaware County Conservation District and was authorized by DEP and issued in July of 2024. The sediment controls do not address the stormwater until construction is finalized. As part of that permit and part of Haverford Township's Chapter 102 compliant code, we are reducing the stormwater runoff from the site. There is no existing stormwater on the site for the existing house that was constructed in the 1970s. All that impervious that was running off at the time, we are bringing that runoff characteristic back to the meadow condition as if there was no impervious on the site before. That is a requirement of Haverford Township. The MPDS requires an 80% reduction, and we are complying with that. The exact discharge is in keeping with the existing flow patterns. We worked extensively with Michelle Wheeler at the Delaware County Conservation District to do a discharge that was compliant with the existing site to reduce erodibility on neighboring sites. We actually went through a 3 revision process with the Conservation District to find the best alternative for that discharge.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in their shoes, I'm hearing a lot of mumbo jumbo. I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
But during the construction phase, what can you do to control water run that might affect them? Put their minds at ease for the next 2 years.
Yeah, we could work with the Conservation District to direct the water at a preferable location if that is compliant with the MPDS regulations.
And you're willing to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Jessica? Ed?
No question.
Bill?
So you'll do both water runoff then during construction to the extent you can coordinate with the Conservation District, and sediment runoff will be controlled through a sock or?
That's already installed and approved by the Conservation District. There's a 32-inch sock that's installed.
Jesse?
It's being maintained and checked periodically to make sure that it's still effective as it was when it was installed?
Yes, it is being checked after every rain event and monthly if there is no rain.
Okay, great, thank you.
I just want to ask one follow-up question, though. I just want to clarify for the record that any discussion we've had with respect to the stormwater, it's related to the general construction that is occurring at 7 Coopertown Road, and you're not anticipating that the removal of these steep slopes would impact or increase stormwater runoff from the property. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are actually anticipating a better collection characteristic because before we were not allowed to bring stormwater piping through it. We were actually able to locate some inlets downhill where we were not previously able to.
That's it for me.
Oh, and the lawyer brought it back home. Thank you. Any other residents? With that, we'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered either this evening. In the event we're unable to render a decision this evening, which we'll try, but it's unlikely because we have a really heavy agenda, then one would be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on, when the hell's our next?
March 6th.
March 6th. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Again, we're going to go out of order. Our next case is going to be Z2505, Albert and Patrice Lawrence, owners of 1324 Harrington Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2201-0060700, who seek a variance from section 182711B1 to permit an accessory building to be 0 feet from the side property line where a minimum of 5 feet is required, and 0 feet from the rear of the rearmost portion of the main building where 10 feet is required. Property is zoned R5 and located in the 1st Ward. Hello.
Good evening, panel. My name is Michael LaRosa. I'm an attorney here in Havertown, probably driven by my office several times, and I am not related to Arlene, even though we have the same last name. I'm sorry we're not going to be as star-studded as the previous one. No one's going to probably be asking for our autographs on the way out, but what are you going to do?
You never know.
Yeah, it's true.
How the presentation goes.
I'm going to juggle for you a little later and see if that works. This is a variance from there are 2 portions of it, of course, 10 feet from the structure of the house and 5 feet from the side of the property line. Alan Patrice Lawrence, they're the owners now, and they were deeded the property by Patrice's father, 88-year-old Martin Whalen, and when they agreed to move in and care for him, which they are doing now. But when two houses merge, the house that you see in the picture to the left really couldn't handle the furniture and the various things that the two of them had in combination. Al built a 10 by 18 shed, and he built it close to the house so that Mr. Whalen would have access to it too. He can use a walker, but when he has to go further distances, he uses his wheelchair. The shed was placed in that proximity for that purpose. I know that John Mounts has provided you with the reasonable accommodation analysis, or at least he's indicated that he has, and that is that it serves the purpose and is related to the disability of Mr. Whalen. I will be calling Patrice Whalen to just verify the facts I'm telling you now. If the property, if in addition to the hardship we're talking about, the second page at the top has a picture that shows that at least part of the backyard that my clients took, and there are trees back there, and there is a garden that Mr. Whalen built himself and didn't want to be disturbed. Moving 10 feet back from there and 5 feet over would intrude on the root systems and perhaps be right up against that tree, as you can tell from the picture. This particular shed, though, is not intended to be permanent. While the need for it is there, and obviously that might be quite obvious to you what that need is when they're all there and they have all of their joint materials there, then it's something we're requesting to remain and a variance as a consequence, but it will not be necessary at some point in time. And then my clients will agree to remove it or have it transferred appropriately to where it needs to be. I did include some pictures of Google Earth in the neighborhood, as well as a picture on the other side of the yard, because in this neighborhood, as when we're talking about the character of the neighborhood, there are many sheds or structures on the property line. At the end of it, I included two pictures that were just larger of prior pictures in case you wanted to have a better look. My clients also went out to the neighbors and got many signatures from all of them indicating that they would have no objection to the shed placement on the property, and I'll supply that to you as well. But the one witness that I would call would be Patrice Lawrence.
Okay.
Can we do that? Because you handed up an exhibit, I just want to make sure that I identify it sufficiently enough as you went through it. So the way I looked at it is I think it might be better to just identify them individually. So A1 would be the first page, which has a picture of the property and entitled Requested Variance. I have as A2, the second page, which is entitled Property Uniqueness and Limitations, which has four enumerated paragraphs and an additional picture, and that's the picture of the garden. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then A3 is entitled Character of the Neighborhood. There are two pictures. One is an aerial photo, and then again, one is a rear yard photo of another garden. A4 is a street view of the property and the adjacent property, also of the sheds. And then finally, A5 is a Google Earth aerial image of the property and surrounding neighborhood.
If I may, I was going to have my client identify what would be A6, which is, this is a 3-page document of names and individuals who signed off and having no objection that are in the neighborhood of the property in question.
Okay, so we'll mark, for identification purposes, the signatures of the residents. It's a 3-page, and we'll do it collectively as Exhibit A6.
A6?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, may I call?
Sorry.
All right, thank you. Patrice Lawrence, please. Can you identify
Hi,
yourself?
Patrice. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Patrice Lawrence at 1324 Harrington Road, Haverford Town.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Closer, yeah.
All right. Patrice, that one showed you the first picture. You're looking at the same thing that we've now marked as A1. The top picture, is that your house to the left?
It is,
All right. There is a green arrow. Is that the shed that we're talking about?
it is.
And your neighbor also has a shed that's, it's sort of an orange arrow indicating that, correct?
Yeah, actually, they have two sheds on the property line.
Okay. Now, you moved in with your father?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. How long?
July of 2023.
All right. And is it just you, your father, and your husband?
Yes,
Husband named Al?
Albert Lawrence.
Okay. Why did you move in with your dad?
My dad's health has been increasingly compromised over the years, and with congestive heart failure, several visits to the hospital. We were running back and forth and between hospital and his home when he was home, and checking in on him. And at one point when he was in the hospital, he was very, he was concerned about his health. He didn't know if he was going to make it, but if he did, what he wanted to do was have us come live with him, and he wanted to deed us the house. So in the hospital, he had a traveling notary come and do a quit deed and deeded us the house. And a few months later, as we slowly packed up our other home, had to minimize greatly so that, we could make accommodations in his house. So
Why was who built the shed?
my husband, Albert,
Okay. Why was it built?
it was built to accommodate both Dad's things and our things because of the merger of,
Why was it placed where it was placed?
to help Dad have access to it.
What would he have in there that he would need access?
My dad, he still likes to tinker with gardening. He does bonsai. So we have tools in the very front on pegboards where he can easily get to, like toolbox, and where his gardening tools are and his pots.
If you could turn to the second page now, which has been marked as A2. There's a picture at the top. Is that one of your father's gardens in front of that tree?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are there more gardens in the backyard as well?
Yes,
Are there more trees in the backyard?
there are.
Could you have moved the shed 10 feet back and 5 feet toward the middle of the property without intruding on one of the gardens or the trees?
No, the footprint of the backyard's not that large. And it would have made the terrain for him to get to it would have been a little more difficult.
Is the shed that there intended to be permanent?
No.
What do you mean?
Well, when the time comes, we'll probably move and it'll come down and go with us.
Okay. Moving to A3. Are you familiar with the neighborhood now? After a couple
Oh,
of years?
yeah, I grew up in Haverford Town.
Is your shed up against the property out of character with the rest of the neighbor and the people around you?
No, not really.
Are there other structures and sheds other than the main houses that are up against property lines?
Yes.
I have a bunch of arrows in green on this picture, and I guess we could actually turn to A5. Oh, that doesn't have the arrows on it. Let's stay on A3. You see the green arrows on the document?
I do.
All right. Do they appear to be, as far as you know, sheds that are up against property lines?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you look at the bottom picture, please? What's that a view of?
That's our backyard.
Okay. Is that the opposite side of this shed?
That is, yeah, that's actually, I believe it's Virginia Avenue is the street behind us. So this is the back part of our backyard.
Okay.
And
so you
that
can-
shed is a neighbor who, they had also signed our petition. But yeah, that's a neighboring shed from our neighbor.
Speaking of the petition, we've handed that up. Can you explain what you did with that petition? In other words, did you go around the neighborhood and explain why you were asking for their signature?
Yes, we did.
And is a 3-page document? Would you mind if I show that to you?
Nope. Who's got the petition?
Is this 3-page document the collection of signatures that you procured of people who had no objection to your shed?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's been marked A6, correct, Mike?
That is the, yes, thank you. A6.
Thanks.
I have no further questions. The panel does.
Okay. Jesse?
What number house is the shared driveway and the shed up against?
Is 1328.
Did you speak to those neighbors, and are they in support of the location of the shed?
I spoke with the wife twice, and she kept telling me she'd have to talk to her husband. And when my husband reached out to him via text, because my dad also tried to call him, he wasn't willing to sign.
But and you testified earlier that they themselves have 2 sheds on the property line. Was that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have those been there, to the best of your knowledge?
As long as my dad's moved into the property in 2000. What year did you move in? What year did you move into Harrington?
03.
In 03, in 2003.
Okay. And I guess you testified that the location that was chosen, or first of all, whenabouts was the shed built by your husband?
In 2023.
Shortly after you moved in?
Yeah, shortly after we
Okay.
moved in, because
That's quite a while ago. So what has brought you here today? Like what raised this to becoming an issue that you needed a variance for?
because we were told 3 people called in on us.
Okay. So you were given a citation?
Somebody, yes.
Okay.
Somebody.
Okay. And so you testified that the location of the shed was, I guess it's as close to the house as you could get so that your father could easily, or as easily as he could, access the contents of the shed?
Yes.
And are the contents of the shed, is it all of his possessions, or is it shared possessions?
It's shared possessions.
Okay. And there was no way to kind of get it even a couple feet away from the property line?
Not really.
And did you, and this might be speculation, but if you have direct knowledge, did you think that perhaps because the neighbors had sheds on the property line that it was okay to build on the property line?
Yeah, we really weren't thinking at the time. If I could go back, we'd probably, if things weren't in such a rush and things weren't, because we're working full time, we're taking care of dad, things, it kind of went,
Right. So you didn't apply for a permit?
We did, and it was denied
Okay.
after it was already built.
I see.
After we were cited.
I see. Oh, I see. And then, to the best of your knowledge, was it built on a concrete pad, or was it built on the ground, or was it built on the driveway?
It's at the end of the driveway on the other side of the fence, on the other side of the walkway, and it's ballast and rebar.
We could have her up and
Yeah.
more details.
Okay. I'm getting towards the, how permanent is it? But you've testified that it's not intended to be permanent and will be removed at some point
Yeah.
in the future.
It came in pieces, it can be taken down in pieces.
I see, okay. Are there any utilities out there, any electric or plumbing or anything like that, or is it just purely a storage shed?
Oh, no, it's purely a storage shed.
I don't have any other questions.
Bill?
Yeah, and, on Exhibit A1, the cover page, your property is the one to the left of the shared driveway in this picture.
Correct.
And there is, looks like a yellow utility van in the driveway with ladders on the roof.
That's correct.
And what, is that a business?
That's my husband's van.
Okay, and he's in his own business.
Yes.
So what percentage of your father's possessions in the shed, square footage wise, relate to his gardening needs? As opposed to, because it's not a small shed.
No, it is a large shed. So it's accommodating, it's also accommodating like his, we had to clear out some of the basement. So some of his possessions that are packed and stored in there, and decorations for the various holidays. So I guess about maybe a third.
You need, so how big is the shed? Let's start there.
It's 10 by 18.
10 by 18, so 180 square feet. And of that, he needs 60 square feet exactly for what?
He has he has some memorabilia, railroad memorabilia, he has decorations, and then the things that are like right there for him to get to are his gardening and like bonsai and his tools. Because he was keeping tools in the basement.
Got it. And so I'm just trying to figure out, because this is an accommodation case. He's seeking accommodation because he wants close physical proximity or access to his gardening tools. All right?
Yeah.
And of that 180 square feet, 160 square feet, I'm sorry, 180, what percentage of that is needed for the gardening equipment?
Out of how many feet?
I don't know, that's the question. Yeah.
I mean, well, there's his tools and our tools.
Right, but we're trying to work on his accommodation, not yours.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out how much space does he really need to give him the accommodation he seeks?
I guess like a third of the shed.
Third of the shed. And so,
I don't know how many square feet that would equate to, but
so a 60-foot shed, square foot shed, would be adequate for his accommodations.
yeah.
And in theory, you could,
I can't imagine that in my head, what that would look like, but I guess.
6 feet by 10 feet?
How much?
6 feet by 10 feet?
6 by 10, okay.
And then the point here is, of course, you could put the other stuff in a storage facility somewhere nearby and not burden your neighbors with a 180 square foot shed when you only need 60 square feet to accommodate your father's needs.
Yeah, and it was also to accommodate our needs as well. But we did have some things in storage, but it gets awfully expensive. We were coming from a rental property. We didn't own, it's not like we sold and we had, I mean, if that was the case, we would have probably bought like a larger place with an in-law suite, but we didn't want to disrupt him. Mm-hmm. We were trying to just have, so where he's in the majority of the house where things, not too much is disrupted for him.
One question you may not know, and if you don't know, that's fine. You can just say, I don't know. Your neighbor who has a shed on the property line, did they receive a variance to have their shed on the property line?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And is their shed roughly the same size as yours?
The one in the back is larger than the one that's in the front.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. from
It,
these
it is.
pictures how
So
big it is.
it's smaller than ours. The one in the back is smaller than ours, but more, I guess, comparable.
Okay, and you had, I think, testified that one of the goals here was to preserve your garden, right, and the existing trees. So is there space in your backyard that wouldn't impact the garden area, which seems to be around the periphery of the yard? Is that?
Well, there's a patio,
Okay.
and then there's the yard. So I don't know. I don't think it would fit.
Okay, and
If it did, it would be too close to the back property line.
So how far is the shed currently from the back property line?
The back of the shed to the back of the property line. Didn't you render? 10 feet to the back of the property line? But the trees there, right? The cypress trees.
May I,
there
if you
on
look at
A2.
A2, that picture, the white board is the end of the shed.
Right, so
And then you can see the end of the property behind the tree.
Right, so the trees that we're trying to preserve are kind of along the back of the property line, is that right?
Well,
Along
actually,
the side
there,
of the property line?
there is, if you look at what is A3, the bottom picture, this is a different garden than the one that we're showing on the other side. So there isn't just one garden and one tree. There's multiple trees, and he has several gardens. You should have taken pictures of the whole thing, but we have it in pieces, if you will. So you could almost piece it together. And then we have the aerial shot as well that will give you a feel, and that is A5. You'll see on A5, there is a little circle on top of their house.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can see the foliage generating up in between the two pools on either side. You have a pool on either side of them. And you can see the trees coming up from that direction, including one that is pretty much right up against the house. If you look at the shed on the property, there's green protruding out almost right next to that shed. So that would have to be removed as well, and then shifting back and over would encroach on the root systems of the trees at the very least.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out whether the shed could have been placed in the middle of the backyard and provided the same quality of access.
May I ask you? I don't mean to interrupt you. It's just, is the shed sit at the end of the driveway where you would be on a hard surface to the shed?
Yeah, it's at the end of the driveway, and then there's the sidewalk on the other side of it's the fence.
Right, if you moved it 10 feet back and 5 feet over, would that be grass area and in between those locations?
10 feet back.
Yeah, and 5 feet
And
over.
5
He's
feet
asking
over.
if we put the shed in closer to the middle, would you have to walk over grass to get to that?
Yeah, yeah.
Your father uses the walker?
He uses it's like a rollator thing.
You testified that there's a patio in the back, right?
Yeah.
What's the patio made of?
It's like slate and brick,
Okay,
and that's where he comes out the back door, the slider, and then he would walk out and walk to.
okay. And so if he uses that rear entrance for egress and ingress, and uses it to get to the driveway. Was there any reason you couldn't have put the shed right up against the back of the patio so he could walk directly across the patio and into the shed?
Well, there's a pergola there. There's a
This
pergola.
is why I think that this application really needed a plot plan, because it's really hard to understand what the limitations really are. So what you're saying is that you have a pergola in the backyard that would prevent the positioning of the shed there?
Yeah.
If I may, in our packet, we got a plan. Maybe you want to enter this as an exhibit so we can refer to it?
Yeah.
I think that would help
We'll do this
the
with
record.
A7.
Yeah.
Let me write that on here.
This is, A7 is the one that's marked G in quotes at the bottom? Is that what I'm looking at?
Should be one here. Let me see if I. Oh, I have. Thank you. It's A7.
Okay, so have you seen A7? Because it might help. So A7 shows a dimension of 44 feet from the sunroom back towards your backyard. And the garden area looks like it's noted by diagonal slash marks along the top of the page. Is that correct?
Diagonal slash marks?
Here at the very top of the page, it looks like it says garden, and there's slash marks through the top, there's an area that's hand-drawn.
Oh, okay, yours looks a little different than mine. So I guess this? Is this
Yeah,
what you're
that has a
talking?
drawing on it.
Yeah, so in this one, it's got hash marks across
Okay,
it.
yeah.
Okay. So that's sort of the flower bed and tree area. We need to straighten that out.
She's looking at the same thing you do. I'm sorry.
Give her this one.
You can have mine.
You have one in there.
I might need it.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's provided.
I can share with you. See. Okay.
There we go.
Okay,
That'll help you understand what he said.
okay.
Okay, so where exactly is the patio? Because that's not noted on here.
Oh, okay.
Is it to the side of the sunroom?
It is. It's, yeah, to the side of the sunroom, and it goes out, it goes out adjacent to the shed.
Okay, and does the patio extend deeper than the outer wall of the sunroom? Does it project further into your backyard than your sunroom?
Yes, it does.
Okay, do you know by about how much?
I'm gonna say maybe 10 to 12 feet, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
So that would project it out roughly 20 to 22 feet from the side of the house to the side of the sunroom. Is that right? From the back of the house? Okay. And it looks like the dimensions that are noted here on this exhibit are 55 feet to the back of the property line, from the back of the house, but only 44 feet from the sunroom, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the flower bed depth there shows variable depths of the flower bed, but where it's noted here, approximately how deep is that flower bed?
Because it juts in and out, it ranges in feet, but I'd say it could be like 6 feet in some areas, maybe 4 feet in others.
So if we assume the patio goes out 22 feet, and you've got a 8-foot flower bed, that's 30 feet, that would leave you with 25 feet to work with in the backyard that's not in the flower bed and would be off the patio. That seem right?
Is-
55 feet total, less 30 feet, which is 22 for the patio and 8 for the garden. So leave you with 25 feet, is that right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. And so your shed, which is at the maximum depth, 18 feet, couldn't fit in that 25-foot space?
I suppose it could. It's further away for Dad.
Right, but it would be right off the patio then, which you say he already uses. Is that right?
Yeah, he'll go out and sit
Okay.
out there.
I don't have any other questions, thank you.
Ed?
Yeah, I'd like to recluse myself on this one only because my daughter received a certified mail and I have some financial interest in her house.
Okay. Jessica?
I just want to confirm that based on A7, the shed is 10 feet back from your existing house if the sunroom wasn't an addition, correct? Ignoring the sunroom. It
Yeah,
is.
it's 10 feet away
Okay.
from the house. It's 10 feet away from the corner of the house and from the sunroom.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Anything else, Jess? Bill?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mike, do you have any other?
Very briefly, the shed has a combination of your materials and your father's, correct?
Correct.
That include things that you indicated from the basement and some of your materials as well.
Correct.
Could you take your materials or your father's materials and bring it into the house without disturbing the layout of the house?
No.
So, in other words, is it fair to say that you wouldn't need the shed for either your materials or your father's material unless the two of you had moved in and you have too many things now to fit within his house? You understand the question?
No.
It's okay. I know it was compound.
Sorry. I have a sleep disorder and I have narcolepsy, type 1 narcolepsy with cataplexy. And it's getting a little late. I'm usually heading to bed right now.
You okay?
So, yeah.
All right.
I just probably need some water.
Okay. Feel free. The board members were asking, or board members asking a question about, is the only a third of it used for the combination of your father? That's true about your father's thing, but your things are in there because you're there to help him, correct?
Correct.
That's all. Thank you.
And Patrice, so if this application were approved, you would be willing to accept as a condition that the shed must be removed if you sell the house?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing.
Or when the accommodation's no longer needed.
Or when the accommodation is no longer needed.
Okay.
Nothing.
You're going to have a seat, Patrice.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify. Anyone that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township? Thanks, Mike. With that, we'll close the record on this case, and the decision will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting, unless we're able to do it tonight, unlikely, but if we're not able to do it tonight, our next regularly scheduled meeting on
6th.
March 6th. You have A7, right?
Yeah, I got it.
One more left, right? The district. Take a few minutes here. All right, we're going to go off the record, 5-minute recess. You guys can come up and, all right, we'll resume the meeting of Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, February 20th, 2025. Our next case is Z2502, Haverford School District, owner of 800 Coopertown Road. Coopertown Elementary School, Haverford, PA, DC folio number 220500426600, to seek a variance from section 182708A1 to allow loading and unloading not at the rear of the building, a variance from section 182708A1D to allow loading space within the front yard setback, and a variance from section 182708A4 to allow a truck to block an automobile parking area, including aisles, during any time in which such area is used for parking or in any way block the flow of persons or vehicles. A variance from section 182727B to allow a fence in the front yard where a fence is prohibited. Property is owned INS and located in the 5th Ward. Hello.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Andy Freemuth here on behalf of the School District of Haverford Township.
No Clement?
I do know both the Clements, yes?
He was here for their last case, I think.
He was. I'm sure he was busy this evening, so
I'll tell
I
him
get
I
the
said
pleasure
hello.
of being here. I absolutely will. The property we're here to talk about this evening, as you just heard from the notice, is the Coopertown Elementary School property. The district currently has a land development plan that's been filed and pending in the township for a renovation to the existing school building. That essentially entails the demolition of 2 existing modular classroom buildings and the construction of 2 new permanent classroom additions, as well as some other improvements, which you'll see on the plan as we go through it this evening. The renovation is not for the purpose of increasing student population, and it's not a response to any kind of future grade realignment. It's purely to update and improve the existing facilities for the current student population and the current staff at the school. The zoning relief that's being requested this evening relates solely to a very minor expansion to the existing loading dock platform for the building. It's currently undersized and it's in need of improvement. The original school building was built, the original portion of the school building was built in 1958. At that time, the loading area was located in the front of the building, near the kitchen area, near the storage area, near the area where the trash is removed from the building. Under today's zoning ordinance, all loading and unloading spaces have to be in the rear of a building. In addition, under today's zoning ordinance, you are not allowed to have any portion of a required loading space in the front yard setback. And trucks or other delivery vehicles are not allowed to stand or be parked for any period of time in a parking area or in a drive aisle when those areas are in use. All of those conditions exist on the property today, and they've existed on the property since the original school building was constructed in 1958. As part of the renovation, the district is simply looking to create a small expansion to the existing platform at the same elevation that exists today, and they'd like to install a roller door, full-length roller door, in order to improve their loading and unloading efficiencies at the school building. There's going to be absolutely no change in the delivery schedule or the delivery operations or the use of this loading area. The loading area is going to function exactly the same today or tomorrow as it does today with this platform addition, except for the fact that you'll see in the materials, we think it's going to look a lot nicer, and it's also going to improve the district's efficiencies with respect to its deliveries. However, because the district is making even the slightest modification to the platform, zoning relief is triggered because of the existing non-conforming condition. So I have passed up my exhibit booklet this evening. I have 2 witnesses to testify. Before I do that, I would like to withdraw the variance request related to the fence. The fence variance request was not a part of our original application. In response to a township review letter as part of the land development plan submission, it was noted that a variance might be required for a fence along the new play area along Coopertown Road. Since that time, I've spoken with Mr. Mount, and there's been a determination that's rendered that we do not need a relief for that fence, given the fact that this is a corner property. So I would like to withdraw that variance request, and we'll only be discussing relief with respect to the platform expansion and the loading this evening.
Okay. All right, Andy.
Okay. With that, I'll call my first witness,
Okay.
Ryan Schuster, and I'll move over here for the questions.
Perfect.
I will be going through the exhibits one by one and identifying them on the record.
Okay, good. Ryan, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear this evening?
Ryan Schuster, civil engineer.
Ryan, what's marked in the exhibit packet is as A1 is a copy of your CV, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And can you just describe for the board a little bit of your professional background and your educational background?
So I graduated from Penn State University in 2017 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I do have my EIT license, and since then I've been working professionally as a civil engineer for the last 8 years. The last 4 have been with K&W Engineers.
Okay. In that capacity, do you have experience working with property owners and developers on site design and zoning and subdivision and land development matters in Pennsylvania?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And as part of that experience, do you happen to review codes and statutes and ordinances in municipality with respect to land development and zoning and subdivision matters?
Yes.
Okay. Have you worked on any site design for any projects here in the township?
I have. Yep.
Okay, which ones?
I've worked on the Chatham Park Elementary School land development, as well as the Haverford Middle School land development projects.
And as part of that work, you're familiar with the Haverford Township Code as it relates to zoning and subdivision and land development?
Yes, I am.
And are you familiar with the zoning application that we're here about this evening?
Yes.
And the property that's the subject of the application?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the Coopertown Elementary School property, is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
And has K&W been engaged by the district to prepare land development plans for a renovation of the existing school building?
Yep, we have.
And that land development plan application is currently pending in the township, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And am I correct that the district has also engaged K&W to prepare a zoning exhibit plan in connection with the property, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that's the plan that was submitted with the application?
Yes, it is.
You're familiar with that plan and you worked on that plan?
Yes, I have both worked on it and am familiar with it.
And if you turn your attention to what's been marked as Exhibit A2.
Before you do that, I'm sorry to interrupt, Andy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this CV, and it says engineer and training at the top, and then at the bottom, registration's engineer and training as well. Are you a licensed PE?
I am not a licensed PE. That is the EIT license that I was
All right.
referring
Can you
to.
explain what the ET license is and what is the criteria for an engineer in training as opposed to a licensed PE?
The engineering training is a license that you can take once you graduate as a bachelor's engineer, a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. The PE is a license you would get after about 4 years of professional engineering. PE is not required necessarily to do site designs. It's only required to stamp the plans.
And I wasn't going to offer Ryan as an expert in any field. I wanted you to have his CV and his resume and his background and understand his experience. Yes.
Thank you.
Before we get to the plan, Ryan, if you can go to what's marked as Exhibit A2, can you tell me whether or not that's the deed to the property that's the subject of this application?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And that deed shows ownership of the property in the school district, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then if you turn your attention to what's been marked A3, that's a zoning exhibit plan. It's also displayed up here on the screen. It's in the packet and it was part of the application, but this plan shows the elementary school property, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the property is zoned IN Institutional Zoning District, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And if you can just take a minute and describe and identify for board what's depicted on this plan.
Of course. So if you can see this plan, the building that is shown in white is the existing school building. To the left and south of the building are existing athletic fields, and to the north is the existing parking. There is 3 existing drives off of Highland Ave, as well as the 2 existing modulars to the right of the building. You can see shaded in yellow. And then to the northern corner, shaded in a reddish color, is the loading dock and the existing and expanded loading dock. As part of the proposed project, there will be 3 building additions. To the north is the new lobby office, And to the south are the two classroom additions. Those are the two classroom additions that are for the purpose of the removal of the modulars. To the east is going to be a new hard play area, as well as a one-way access onto Coopertown Road. There will be some parking improvements that you can see to the north, as well as a minor platform expansion to the loading dock.
Thanks, Ryan. And am I correct that the variances that are being requested and that are required for this project relate only to the proposed loading dock expansion?
That is correct.
And again, looking at the plan, can you just, you pointed this out, but just to make it clear, highlight for them the location of the expansion and the existing loading space?
Yes, so right where my cursor is at, if you can see the screen, and it's also shaded in red, is the loading space, as well as the existing loading dock and the expansion.
And one of the variances requested relates to the requirement in the zoning ordinance that loading and unloading spaces must be located in the rear of the building. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And the loading dock today, as you can see on the plan, is located in the front of the building, correct?
Correct.
And is it your understanding that it's been located in that area since the school building was originally constructed?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And as we can see on the plan, the proposed project is a renovation to the existing school building as opposed to a total demolition and the construction of a new building, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is the area within the existing school building that's immediately adjacent to the loading area, the portion of the building that receives deliveries, where food is prepped, and where trash is removed from the building by the district?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And as part of the proposed renovation, there's no plan to change the location of any of those areas within the building, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And can you tell the board why the platform expansion is being proposed?
So the existing platform is undersized. It makes it very difficult for staff during loading and unloading deliveries. It also requires the staff to have to walk down the stairs and walk around to the dumpsters in order to throw any trash away. So the proposed expansion is to allow for better efficiency during those loading and unloading deliveries, and to allow the dumpsters to be located right along the new platform expansion to make it a lot easier for trash removal.
Great. And let's look at a photograph and a rendering, which I think will illustrate that for us. So if you look at A4, this photograph, can you tell us what's depicted on this photograph?
So this is looking at the existing platform from Highland Ave. The existing loading doors you can see are the red ones shown here, the double swing with the windows. The yellow that you can see is the existing platform, and then how the dumpsters are just ruled to the left of that existing platform.
And the extension or the expansion that's being proposed to that platform is, if you're looking at this photo, is going to extend to the left of the existing platform. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and it's going to be at the same height or the same elevation as the existing platform?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And does the district also intend to add a new rolling door next to those existing swinging service doors that you just described?
Yes, there is one proposed to the left of the existing.
Okay. And how will that new door impact the loading and unloading activity?
It'll greatly increase the efficiency. It'll eliminate the need for maneuvering through the existing swing doors.
Okay. And if you can turn to what's been marked Exhibit A5, can you describe for the board what's shown on this exhibit?
Yes. So this is a rendering to show this expansion of the platform. You can see behind the two green dumpsters how the platform expands all the way to the corner of the existing building. You can also see in white to the left of the red doors the rolling door that we just mentioned, as well as how the dumpsters can be located right along the new platform. There will also be a screen wall to the left of these dumpsters to help with the visual, and the material of that screen wall will be the same as the existing building.
Great. And the length of that expansion provides sufficient room to put those two dumpsters right up against it. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it allows room for the dump trucks to come in, get their arms in there, and to perform, any dumpster removal.
And it also takes it right to the end of that existing wall so that it lines up. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. If you go back to the zoning plan. We'll talk about the final two items of relief. The zoning ordinance states that no loading space shall be located within the front yard setback. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you show us the extent to which the existing loading space encroaches into the front yard setback?
Yes, so the existing loading space that is shaded in red, there is a 9.48 feet encroachment. You can see that there is these front yard setback that cuts right through the top of that loading space.
And that condition exists today, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And we will hear in a moment much more about the delivery schedule, but is it your understanding that the platform expansion is not going to change the nature or the extent of the deliveries that occur to the property today?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
And would you agree then that the platform expansion should have no impact at all on the use of the loading space or the loading area as it exists today?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And the zoning ordinance also states that no truck is permitted to stand or be parked temporarily in a parking area or drive aisle during any time that those areas are in use. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And obviously, this plan shows the loading, the required loading space within the drive aisle and adjacent to existing parking spaces, correct?
Correct.
And that's a condition that exists today with or without the expansion?
That is correct.
Okay. And if there's going to be no change in the nature or extent of the deliveries, do you believe that the platform expansion is going to result in any additional vehicular conflicts on the site?
No, we don't believe there's going to be any additional conflicts based off of this.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that the platform expansion is going to have any negative impact on how the district uses this property or have any negative impact on neighboring properties or the public welfare generally?
No, we don't see any negative impacts.
Those are all the questions that I have for Ryan.
Okay, Andy. Bill?
Just a couple questions. How wide is how deep is the existing loading dock?
So I don't have the depth. I could measure it off of this plan. I do have a square footage, if that helps.
No, I'd be more interested in at least a ballpark number of depth.
I would say probably about 10 feet.
So-
Maybe slightly less comparing it to the 9-foot dimension that we have here.
Yeah, okay. And you're adding a rolling door. So why do you need a loading dock at all now? Why couldn't you just back those trucks right up to the rolling door and have items taken off the truck and brought right into the building directly and not use the loading dock?
I wonder if that might be more of a question for the logistics.
If you don't know, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, for the usage of that loading dock itself.
One of the objectives perhaps would be to keep a full-size tractor trailer out of the, within at least or outside the front yard setback, right? You just testified it's roughly about the same distance, the depth of the loading dock and the amount by which a full-size truck would be in the travel lane and in the parking lot.
You're referring to how much it's encroaching into the front yard setback? It's the 9.
I thought you said they're roughly comparable, about 9 to 10 feet.
Oh, yeah, comparing those dimensions, it is roughly about the same.
And so, did anyone, from an engineering point of view, consider just removing the dock since you're putting a rolling door in?
I don't know if that consideration has been made.
Because it would remove a problem that we have, which is the loading dock in the front of the building, facing out onto Highland Avenue and all the neighbors having to look at it.
I would speak, just as a follow-up to that, that would create a little bit of difficulty with the dumpsters at the current
Okay,
location, because it does give a platform for the dumpster removal, or for the trash removal. So
How
remove,
so? Because the dumpsters are going to be sitting in front of an extended loading dock. If you didn't have the loading dock there, those dumpsters could be closer to the building.
right, but then the staff would still have to leave, go down the steps and walk around to the dumpster instead of having a platform that can.
So is this an accommodation case for employees of the school district who can't walk down the staircase?
No, this is not. But I think if there was a rolling door, the loading area would still be located in the front of the building.
It would be, but I'm just talking about the loading dock.
Oh, the dock itself, yes.
Yeah, what I'm suggesting is you might not need the loading docks at all, which would be presumably a significant improvement to the front of the building. So I think you showed in Exhibit A5 this new screening wall to be built, which is also jutting out into the parking lot, and shows two neatly stored dumpsters inside that. Is there a reason on page A4 that these dumpsters currently extend well beyond the side of the building? Is there a difficulty for trucks putting these dumpsters back on the parking lot that they can't be closer to the existing loading dock?
I'm not aware of any difficulties.
So why are we supposed to be comforted that they're going to put the dumpsters inside this wall when they can't even put them up against the loading dock now?
I would like to say that looking at A4, there is an area of crosshatch pavement markings that do designate it as essentially just unusable pavement to locate this type of dumpsters. And looking at the exhibit that I have on screen here, A3, there will be 2 new parking spaces to the right of those dumpsters. So it does remove some of the, it kind of channelizes the area that the dumpsters would be, putting those 2 new parking spaces in.
And on Exhibit A5, it looks like a walled-in and screened-in area to the right of the loading dock?
Yes.
And what's in there?
Those will be utilities.
So is there a reason that the dumpsters couldn't be put in there?
As far as that's going to be maxed out with generators. There's going to be a lot of,
What's the square footage of that space?
unfortunately, I don't have the square footage for that.
And how much is the square footage of your generators?
I don't have that square footage either. I don't.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Jesse?
With regard to the loading space size, it's marked 12 by 60 is required by the code. Is that right?
That's correct.
The best of your knowledge, what is the largest size truck that the district uses currently, and that you've planned for and done truck turning radius studies for?
We have done turning studies for the buses. As far as the loading space, the largest loading delivery, I'm not aware of the largest. That could be something that we can mention once we get to the logistics of that loading dock.
Okay. And you mentioned the new curb cut to Coopertown, the new driveway, the driving path to Coopertown, and you mentioned that it was one way. Mm-hmm. Is it one way in or one way out?
It'll be one way out for buses.
One way out for buses, okay. On A3, I understand from the rendering, the wall that's being added, there's like a dark gray line that cuts across that area. What does that represent? Is that just new paving?
That is new pavement, correct?
Okay, all right, so that's not a wall. It looks like a wall in plan, but from the rendering on A5, it's actually just new paving?
Yeah, you can see just south of the line that you're referring to, there's a little bit of a spotted hatch. It's due to concrete that's going to be placed in that area, so that new pavement is just for the tie-in between the concrete and the pavement itself.
I understand. And then to the left, there's a dark line that Mr. Rhodes was referring to, and that's the screen wall that encloses the utilities and generator?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I do not have any other questions.
Jessica?
Looks like there are about 5 spaces that are blocked if a 12 by 60 truck is parked in the loading dock. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Was any consideration given to relocating those spaces elsewhere on the site to still meet the parking count?
1 second. So at the moment for the parking count, there are 72 existing, proposed are 85, and 85 are required. And with the current layout of the site, it is difficult to get parking in other locations. We have considered, but like I mentioned, we even have some of the parking next to dumpsters, so utilize as much viable space as we can. So we're right at that limit in order to adjust the way our parking is currently laid out.
I don't have any other questions, Bob.
Ed?
Yes, I do have one question, the dumpster. Part of the testimony I heard was the idea that you were going to be able to put trash in the dumpsters from the loading dock. They have a lid on them. Leave the lid open at all times?
That would have to be the logistics with the school itself. I mean, they could.
Testimony that said that that's why you're doing it, but yet you can't open them without going down on the ground and opening it. And we wouldn't want to have the dumpsters put there and left open.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how how they would do that.
No other question.
Okay, anything else? Jess, Bill,
No.
Jessica? All right, I don't have any questions. All right, Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.
Unless you have any other questions for your
But
witness?
before I get to Lisa, I'll call Ken Matthews just to try and answer some of the questions that you raised. And if you just be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear to?
Sure. Ken Matthews. We are the owner's representative for the school district, project managers overseeing the project on their behalf.
And are you able to speak to the question about moving the dumpsters into the utility area?
Yeah, so a couple things with the dumpsters. I can start with the lids. So, they leave the lids open, so they throw it in. The high school does it that way. Linwood does it that way. We'll be doing it the same way at Chatham. The loading dock set up the same way, so it is a pretty typical thing that you would have the dumpster right up against the loading dock to throw the trash and recycling in. As far as the dumpsters, Bill, to your question, the idea is to tidy up the parking lot. And by putting that wall there, it's trying to enhance the loading dock at least a little bit aesthetically. Obviously, we can't put it out in front. So the dumpsters are loose now because there's no parameters for, these dumpster guys, they come in and they just drop them. So, there'll be a parameter now that they have to follow, no different than a trash enclosure. If you had gates, all of that. So they'll be required to do that and maintain that. That's part of what they'll deal with their contract with the vendor. As far as getting rid of the loading dock, the problem with that, so you would, it's a great thought and a great question. You have two issues. One, you have the overhang of the roof. So it's not flush up against the building. You have about a 3 foot overhang so that the truck would hit that. So that's problem number one. And problem number two, you would have to have, you think about when you're delivering pallets with a pallet jack, you have to be able to maneuver, get it off the truck. You'd have to have basically probably at least a 10-foot wide door and have a fully recessed loading area inside to maneuver and do that. There's no space inside to do that. We do have a small receiving area, but it wouldn't be large enough to that. We're doing a 6-foot door, I believe, so you really have to get much bigger. And again, the truck can't pull up tight against the building anyway because of the roof overhang, so that would be an issue.
So if the added loading dock area, though, if the added loading dock area is really just sitting behind these dumpsters, then that added loading dock isn't really being used, is it, for removing items from the truck and pulling them right into the building?
For that portion, no, that's correct.
So
It really
why do
would
they
be for
need to
trash.
expand the loading dock there?
It really was to clean it up, give a little more space, and so they don't have to walk down the stairs to throw out the trash.
But
So that's a
that
big part
presumes
of it.
that you're leaving the lids open.
Yeah, and they do, as they operate at other
24/7?
schools. Yeah, at other schools, that's a typical operation that they.
Even at night?
It's a plastic lid.
I
It's
got
right
it.
up against it. You can lift it up and throw the trash in. No, I
And
don't
even
know.
at
I
night,
don't.
Raccoons and other things getting into garbage, it's not a concern?
No, I think they probably close it at night. I'll have to go back and look and I can get an answer from the maintenance director, but they're still able to lift the lid up. They're very light plastic lids, so they can lift the lid and throw the trash.
Right, and given how tight parking is in the turning radius, and we haven't even heard about a 60-foot truck turning radius yet being proved out here, but if we didn't extend that dock there, those dumpsters could be pushed at least flush against the building, right?
You could pull them in, yes, closer to the building.
And if we did that, we might even be able to put a privacy screen in front of the dumpsters so that it wasn't, essentially looking exactly what the township code doesn't want it to look like for all of our neighbors across Highland who stare right at this building.
Sure. Yes, you could add gates. The tough part with gates is they are difficult to maintain with the dumpsters coming in and out. So it's less than ideal, but yes, you could do that.
And that would be something that if this board wanted to condition an approval on, would be acceptable?
I'm sure the district would be open to that. It would be on the one side, you wouldn't have a gate on the other half, so it would be half of the loading dock that would be covered.
And I think there was a question that the prior witness wasn't really sure about, which is the space
enclosure
behind the screen wall.
So that's completely filled. You have a chiller in there. It's 8 to 10 foot wide by 20-ish foot long chiller. And the fence is pretty much only 3 feet clear around it for the air requirement. Then there'll be a generator within that space up against the existing building. Generators are approximately 4 foot by 8 foot long. So there is no space to put it in there, to put dumpsters in there.
And I wasn't sure, when are the typical deliveries?
That's what Lisa's going to testify to.
We have Lisa from the district who's going to tell us about the,
Yeah, so, just overall, the thought was we were trying to minimize parking, minimize impervious coverage, to expand the parking lot. We had done another iteration of expanding it to the plan east, which is kind of north. But then you were into the setbacks. That was a lot of problems. And as you heard from Ryan, you only needed about 13 or 14 more spaces. So really was trying to limit the impervious coverage and all of that. That's why, and keeping the parking lot as is. And there's nowhere else to put parking on the site.
Well, I presume you have plenty of room on impervious.
I think it's
given
noted.
all the playing fields.
I think it's noted in the zoning data table.
And
Yeah, there is. It just, then underground basins, everything grows and grows. So we're trying to keep it to what was required.
Yeah, and yet you're extending the children's play area to essentially, other than a sidewalk and a narrow buffer, right onto Coopertown Road for small elementary school children, but you don't want to extend the parking lot equally in that direction for faculty and visitors and parents who come and park there, because often all the parking is used up at the school and there's very little place to park for visitors or others. So how's the value decision to put children right onto Coopertown Road but not extend the parking even right up to the side yard setback?
Sure. So 2 things. One, we're meeting the township required ordinance for parking. So the district felt that it's the appropriate amount of spaces, of course, as well as meeting the township zoning ordinance.
But let me just make sure, because we heard that testimony, but if there's a truck in there, we lose 5 spots from cars being able to get in and out. And so in theory, the usable parking spots when a truck is there is actually below the requirement.
Yeah, I would agree, absolutely. And we'll hear, we will hear the time frame for the deliveries and how long they take, essentially.
Okay.
Yes.
But to answer your question, for the play area, it was grossly undersized. So that is being expanded similar to what Linwood and what the other schools have, so that the children have an area, and it was the only place to put it. That's the gymnasium that's right there, the existing gym. So logistically, that's where they would have recess and whatnot. So this is a fenced-in area for security, and trying to, just keep the children corralled in that one area. So that's why that was expanded.
So the entire play area is fenced on all 3 sides, other than where it's against the building?
Correct.
Ed?
No question.
Jessica?
No questions.
Jesse, you have anything else?
Well, did you, someone else is going to testify to the size of the truck and the durations and the times of the deliveries?
Yeah,
Yes.
we have all the delivery details coming up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I did have one question, though. You made reference to the dumpsters being similar at other schools in the district. Are any of those in front yard setbacks?
Let's go by each school. I don't believe so. I'd have to run through each one quickly.
I can't think of any.
No, I don't believe so.
So that's just the difference, is what I think Mr.
Yes,
Rhodes is
that's
getting at.
the
Yeah.
existing condition, and
Right.
and you know, just when we laid out this whole renovation and going through it, logistically trying to figure out where else it could possibly go, and with the guts of the building and keeping all the existing classrooms and the layout, there was nowhere else to put the loading dock, so that's why it remained as is.
Right. Oh, I totally understand that. And actually, I have to say that, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they're making smart moves with keeping a building that still has viability and adding on smartly. So I think that is to be applauded. So, I mean, I know you're dealing with an existing condition. We're just trying to, see if it's as best as it can be and as minimal of a relief as you need.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Ed.
No problem. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Lisa?
Hello, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
My name is Lisa Taddy, and currently I'm the School Food Service Director at School District of Haverford Township.
How do you spell your last name, Lisa?
Taddei.
And what's your position again, Lisa?
I'm the Food Service Director.
Okay. Go ahead, Andy.
And Lisa, you're employed by Chartwell's School Dining, but working with the school district in the
Yes.
capacity that you just described, correct?
That's correct. Chartwell School Dining Services is a food service management company that's contracted by the school district to manage the food service program.
Okay. And how long have you been employed with Chartwell's?
Over 35 years, and we've been in the district. This is our 5th year.
And are you familiar with the schedule and the nature of the various deliveries that occur to Coopertown Elementary School?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And as far as you know, do all of the regular delivery activities that you're going to describe for us in a moment utilize the loading area that we've been talking about tonight?
Yes.
Okay. And then can you describe for us then, without any delay, the types of deliveries and the frequency with which they occur to the property?
Sure. Currently, we have about 5 different types of deliveries that come every week. Milk, ice cream, produce. We have a main distributor, and we have a bread delivery. The milk comes about twice a week in a refrigerated box truck. The delivery is completed in about 10 to 15 minutes. We have ice cream and produce that are delivered 1 time a week. They're also delivered in a refrigerated box truck. The delivery time is completed in about 15 minutes. We have a bread delivery 1 to 2 times a week, depending on the menu. That's completed in about 10 minutes. And then finally, we have our main distributor delivers to the property in a tractor trailer truck. This delivery can take anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes.
What do they deliver? I'm sorry.
Our main distributor, pretty much all our groceries, frozen foods, lunch meats.
And they're how often?
Chicken nuggets. That comes once a week.
And what time do the trucks generally come?
Most of the trucks come between the hours of, most of the deliveries come between 7:30 and 11.
In the morning?
In the morning, yes. The distributor may come at a different time. And most of them come before the faculty's there, and a lot of times before the students are there.
What happens if a truck does come while the faculty is arriving, or the school buses are arriving, or
Well, especially the distributor truck.
Yeah, the big one, right?
We have those deliveries scheduled so they work around children arriving to school. So we try to, we schedule those deliveries when students aren't arriving at school.
So the district does have a level of control over the deliveries?
Yes, we do.
And what happens when a truck arrives anyway at the wrong time?
If it does, they have to wait until the students are all
And where
out
do
of the buses.
where does that truck park?
They come into the parking lot,
So they're in the parking lot
yes.
and they're not unloading. They're not allowed to unload, that's the difference?
No, they come into the parking lot and
Even when the
unload.
kids are arriving?
No, when the kids are
So when the
arriving,
kids are
they
arri-
will wait.
Where do they
until-
wait?
Until, yeah, they won't disrupt students getting on and off buses. Buses don't unload and unload in that parking lot area anyway.
Right, but there's still a lot of kids who walk from
That's
that
correct.
neighborhood on the other catty corner through the intersection. And so where does that tractor trailer park if he comes at the wrong time? Where do you say, look, you can't come in the parking lot,
You know,
right?
I'm not even aware that that's happened very often. Either they come really early in the morning or later after school has started already. If they did, they would just have to park on the street or,
There's no parking on Coopertown.
well,
so-
they would have to, I guess they would just sit on Highland Avenue and wait if they needed to. But again, I'm not really aware that that has happened.
And I know I stated this in my opening, but the deliveries are going to stay the same with this improvement?
Yes.
Okay.
And if that was a problem, that they were coming at another time, at the wrong time, we might send them away and tell them to come back at another time. So we do have the flexibility.
Yes. We would probably encourage them to do that, I would think, as opposed to block traffic in the street or
Yes.
otherwise clog up the parking lot, correct?
Yes.
Jessica?
Are the milk, ice cream, produce, and bread delivery trucks the same size as the main delivery truck, or do those tend to be smaller?
No, they're smaller. They're box trucks.
They're box trucks, okay.
Yes.
Like a 40-foot box truck-ish?
Ish.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
I don't have any other questions.
Ed?
Is food services the only one that uses this loading dock?
There are other deliveries that come for the school district. I think sometimes there's a school district box truck that may deliver janitorial supplies or other supplies to the school district at the loading dock. We also have a driver that will deliver mail, paperwork. Sometimes we have USDA commodities from the high school, and they're brought to the loading dock as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
That's it, Ed?
That's it.
And so,
Wait, Jesse, did you go already?
Yeah, but go ahead, Bill.
okay, so as far as you know, the question before us is whether there's a variance to extend this loading dock. But the loading dock is essentially the new loading dock would separate the building from the dumpsters, right? In other words, a truck can't use this portion of the loading dock because the dumpsters are going to be parked right in front of it.
I thought the dumpsters were on the side. There's an area on the loading dock where the dumpsters were away from where they were
What's being
delivering.
proposed is to extend the loading dock. If you're standing in the building, in the doorway, looking out over the loading dock, it would go further, but it wouldn't create additional space for a truck to pull up next to the other one. It's just fronting the dumpsters. So the question I was trying to figure out is,
I understand. what you're-
how do you guys need to use this extra space when it could be used to just create a deeper recess for the dumpsters so they're not so much in the parking area?
Well, I feel like a larger space would allow especially the distributor to unload more efficiently, unload more product from the truck. Right now, it's a minimal amount of product that they're able to unload, and we have a really small loading area. So I think it's going to make delivery a lot more efficient, and I think it's going to lessen the time that the truck is in the parking lot.
Okay, and keep in mind, you have a new rolling door that's going to open that a truck, and the things being taken off in pallets can be rolled right into the building.
The deliveries that I get at this school are not delivered in pallets.
They're not, they're
No.
just hand carried,
It,
box
yeah,
by
they,
box?
yeah, because I have, 2 cases of this, 3 cases of that. It's not like one pallet of the same item.
But still, then, so you don't really need a hydraulic hand truck because you don't have pallets. So you don't need the turning radius for that on the loading dock. You can just bring the stuff, carry it right from the truck in through the new rolling door. I'm still trying to figure out what you need this extra loading dock for.
Well, when the product comes off the truck, they kind of, when I've watched them deliver, the delivery man will have his list, and he'll just unload everything, and he'll kind of have it in a pile. Because he's making deliveries for a lot of stops. And then what he'll do is he'll take the things from the pile and bring it in. He'll have frozen food, so he'll bring frozen food in together, so it's dry, frozen, and refrigerated food. So he's getting things from all different parts of the truck and then putting them in different piles. And then he doesn't usually bring everything in mixed. He normally brings in like frozen food and then fresh food and then dry food. So it may give him a lot more area to work and unload and efficiently bring the delivery in.
Lisa, is it possible that he could put some of that material onto the new expanded area?
Yes.
In order to speed up the
That's
delivery?
pretty much, that's what I was trying to say when he unloads everything.
Okay.
He would have a larger area.
And do you use, who's your trash hauler at Coopertown?
I'm not sure who the trash hauler is.
Maybe Ken knows if we can ask him.
Is it a private company or do you use this township?
Well,
Is it on the dumpster?
yeah, it's on the dumpsters for public.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's on the dumpster.
It's on the
So how often do the Republic trucks come in to service the dumpsters?
What times?
Do we know?
I don't know, no.
I'm not sure of that either.
No, okay. Well, why don't you come up and give that answer, Ken?
It's certainly not daily. I believe it's twice a week typically, but I don't think it's any more than that.
And do they come at night or off hours also?
I think a lot of times they come in the morning, but I don't know that that's quite as controllable just because of the garbage truck's schedule, but we can find that out.
That's it. Jesse, did you?
No, on A4, referring to A4, which is the photo, there's a small storage shed. Are you aware of what's in that storage shed is used for, or what goes in there? And follow-up question to that, will it remain in the expanded loading dock configuration?
So that's a bread box. That's a storage shed, and we put our bread in there. A lot of times the bread deliveries are delivered very early before anyone is here, just so that he can make it, because some days he has 7 deliveries or even 10. So he does come early, and we decided to put that storage cabinet there so he can just put the bread right into the bread box.
So it'll remain in the.
We would prefer to
Yeah,
keep
okay.
that bread box there, just to assure efficiency.
Other things I've seen in loading docks in the district and other places is, there might be milk crates and bread crates, or those, they're not depicted in A4, but are there times when those might be on the dock and needed? To the question of the need for extra space, is it because there's, the need for temporary storage of milk crates and other things like that?
We do store the milk crates there. We try to put them out on the day that the milkman is coming, so
Right.
we don't keep them out there
Right.
until we know that the delivery is coming.
And I think what you were referring to earlier about the expanded space is like, it essentially provides extra laydown space to make the deliveries faster, and you're hoping to cut down the 15 minutes to 10 or 10 to 5. That's generally the goal, to make it more efficient?
The distributor sometimes can take 40 minutes, depending on, how loaded his truck is.
Right.
And sometimes we get very large deliveries.
I don't have any other questions.
You have anything, Ed? Anything else? Jessica?
I just have one question. Looking at, I guess it's probably for the civil engineer though, not for Lisa. So I'm done.
All right. I'm going to take 2. we'll go off the record. Jeff, I have a question for you. All right, we'll resume the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board. Where were we, Andy? Is your case in chief done?
Yeah, we're finished. Yeah.
Okay. Any of the board members?
Unless there's any, are there any other questions or?
That's
no?
right.
Okay.
Ask them now.
Yeah.
I have one more question for the civil
Yeah.
engineer.
Thought there was a question.
Yeah.
In Exhibit A4, there's a photograph of a gutter that looks like in Exhibit A5, it continues to run into the expanded loading dock. How is water going to be managed in that area?
Unfortunately, that's an architectural question.
Do you pull out the rendering just so I can see it? I think she's saying A5.
I'm sorry, right here. So unfortunately, I don't have that answer. That would be on the architectural plans. I'm only personally concerned with 5 feet off of the building when it comes to utilities. I can say that we do have storm lines within this parking lot, that the connection will most likely be made into to an inlet that's within the parking lot, right around where my cursor is. You can see it, the inlet that I'm referring to here.
Ken may know how it's going to be managed.
Yeah, I'll look at the plans. That will have to be tied in. We are going to have to add a trench drain in this area anyway, due to some drainage issues. So that roof drain would be tied into the underground.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Ed?
No question.
Bill?
You know, I'm just trying to, in the room with the roll door or the rolling door, whatever, do we have a sense how big we heard some testimony that there may not be that much space in that room. And I don't think we heard testimony, unless I missed it, of how big that room is and whether it has, like fixtures or things in the room that prevent its usable space. I just
No, there is some lay down space in there. There is a small receiving area. I just looked at the plans today. It's probably 10 by 10-ish, something like that, on the inside.
So
it's not a massive room.
Yeah, it is.
But it's enough to wheel some things in through the rolling grill.
Right. And then, one thing I'm trying to get my head around is about the need for the extra loading dock is that, you might need it to take stuff off the truck and kind of put it there. And is the reason for that because you don't want to leave the roll door open or like in the winter? And
I mean, so even if you just look, Bill, here at this image, so even the bread that Lisa says they use, that's right where the rolling grill is. So now there's no space to put that because you can't put it to the right because it'd be in front of the red doors. Where it is going to be in front of the new rolling grill. So the only place to put it now would be to the left. So, it just gives a little more flexibility. And as I said, you can see with the roof overhang, that overhangs 2 to 3 feet. So you're really talking about you'd maybe gain 5 to 6 feet back up against the building. So, we still would, if that loading dock wasn't expanded, you'd still have to put bollards and whatnot. So because you couldn't put them right up against the building. So you'd still be a few feet off the building.
right. And what will happen to that white door? Or is that a white door to the side of the double side?
No, that's not a door. That white is just it's a siding. It's a ephes siding.
And you're, okay. All right. And yeah, well, let me just, so the idea is that you sort of need it for the cabinet, for the early delivery bread cabinet.
That would be part of it, yes.
Okay, and so, but your truck could, in theory, just take everything right into the room and not need it. They could just carry I'm still struggling why someone who's select items off the truck wouldn't just walk right into the room and put it inside and rather than even leave it outside because of the elements or whatever, heat, rain, snow.
Yeah, I mean, I would think the conditions probably have something to do with
That's
it,
part
but
of it, sure.
they may want to temporarily lay down things there in order to get on with their delivery schedule, I guess, which would increase the efficiencies of the delivery overall, and hopefully reduce any conflicts with parking in the drive aisle, because that's just a condition that unfortunately the school district has to deal with. So I think that's the concept there in terms of that particular use of the extended area.
Okay. And then this isn't really a question for you. It's really a question for you, Andy, I don't think what we know is the size or the frequency, the timing, and the size of trucks for non-food. We've heard about 2 trash pickups a week, and we've heard about the food detail, which was very helpful. But we also heard that
I can speak to that. So Director of Maintenance, I went through it exactly. They have a gentleman and a small box truck that goes around to all the schools every day. So once a day, they have a delivery of mail, and whether it's janitorial supplies, whatever comes in. So that is once a day, usually sometime in midday.
Okay.
But he does go to all the schools. So it's a brief, it could be a 1-minute delivery if it's just a little mail, or a little more if they're delivering paper or any, those type of supplies. But generally it's short-lived, and it is a smaller box truck, probably 30-foot.
Okay.
So that's the only non-food delivery,
Thank you.
correct? And
Okay.
it
That's
occurs
correct.
in the same time window as the food deliveries, correct?
Okay.
Right.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jeff?
I think Mr. Rhodes made, a reference earlier about whether you would accept conditions of screening the dumpsters. Are you guys in a position to be able to accept that on behalf of the school district tonight if we were inclined to approve the plan?
Yes, and but I would state that it's preferably not, because gates are notoriously smashed and a constant maintenance issue and cost for the district. The dumpster trucks do not take to them well. On almost any project we've done, they're in disrepair within a year.
Understood. That was my only question. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else unanswered for any witness? Jess, Ed?
No.
Bill?
No.
Jessica? Okay. Andy, anything you want to add?
No, thank you very much. Yep.
Any kind of
Thank you.
closure?
No, I think you guys understand the case. Thank you.
With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, anyone present that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township?
Chairman, if I could.
Yes, absolutely.
Good evening. My name is David Keatley Jr. I'm here from the Solicitor's Office on behalf of Radnor Township. I'm here to request party status, but the commissioners did not send me to oppose the application tonight, simply to request party status, enter my appearance, and ask questions of the applicants if I felt it was necessary, or make suggestions to you all. But I think that there's no need to beat a dead horse. You've made all of the comments that I could have made better than I could have made them. So I'm not going to reiterate those comments. I'm not going to ask any more questions, because my questions have been answered by your questions and their answers there too. The reason that we're here on behalf of the township is because, as you know, across Highland Avenue is Radnor Township. There's about 9 properties, 6 that are close to the road, 9 that are 3 that are a little bit further back. But we really just want to make sure that things weren't going to get worse by this plan. And we understand the traffic volume and schedule is going to be the same. Perhaps might even improve the efficiency of the plan. They're not going to expand into the setback any further, and it doesn't appear that it's going to have any negative impact across the street, traffic-wise at least. So there's a good point about the dumpsters. If perhaps there could be a condition that the dumpsters be closed at the end of the day, just so it's not a vector for raccoons or other vermin. But other than that, I think our concerns have been addressed, so I have nothing else to offer you.
Okay.
I would just note I don't have any objection to the township, Radnor Township being a party. Thank you.
And we'll grant party status, but, okay. No other residents of Haverford Township? With that, we'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on March 6th.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So, Bill, you'll do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now remember, the 2 cases were consolidated.
Yep.
And Jessica, you're gonna do Lawrence? Okay. So, all right, decision. With respect. Yeah, sorry to make you sit there all night, but.
No problem. I might sleep in a little more. Thank you. Take care.
See you. Good night. With respect to case Z2503, 7 Coopertown Road, DC Folio number 220400140000, which was consolidated with case Z2508, 9 Coopertown Road, DC Folio 220400140001. Those two cases were consolidated. I would ask, are you prepared to vote? Jessica?
I am.
Ed?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Jesse? Yes. And just for the record, case Z25-09, 10 Coopertown, DC Folio 220400141100 was withdrawn by the applicant. So, Bill, would you please take this decision?
Sure. With respect to the consolidated cases Z25-03 and Z25-08, I would vote to grant the requested variances, subject to the condition that all stormwater runoff shall be managed by the applicant so as not to adversely affect any neighboring property, and that the project would be completed within 2 years of the date of this approval and in accordance with the notes of testimony.
Jesse?
I agree.
Ed?
I concur.
Jessica?
Agree.
And so do I. That applications are approved 5-0 with those conditions. With respect to case Z25-05, Albert and Patrice Lawrence, owners of 1324 Harrington Road, DC Folio number 220100607000, and I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless somebody specifically requests that I do so. Are you prepared to vote? Jesse?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jessica?
Am.
Jessica, would you please take that decision?
Sure. I would vote to grant the variance for the shed that is currently built on the property with the following condition. The shed must be removed when Martin Whalen no longer resides at the house or when the shed is sold, when the house is sold, whichever comes first.
Utilities.
Would there be utilities would not be allowed?
No, I would grant the variance for the shed as it currently stands, which is no utilities.
No utilities.
Yep.
Okay.
Jesse?
Agree.
Bill?
I agree.
Ed?
I recuse myself from this one.
Oh, that's right. I agree. That application is approved 4-0 with those conditions. Any minutes?
Yeah, with one abstention.
Yeah. Oh, recusal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
Yeah,
get recorded
yeah,
as an
yeah,
abstention.
yeah.
Do we have minutes?
We did. Yeah, I sent them around.
You want to move them?
It was the record. Sent them on the day after the
Right.
meeting.
A burst of energy.
Madam Secretary?
You know what it is? All up here. Pick it up so we can crank them out
Want me
now.
to wait till? Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Any other administrative matters? All right, then we are adjourned.